Okay, so since it's 6:30, I'd like to call to order the West End Neighborhood Council meeting on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, at 6:30 p.m. So just a quick introduction. My name is Liz Whitefield, and I'm a co-chair along with Sherry Soline, who's present. I also see Jean Kelly and Brian DePew, our treasurer. And we have 2 excused absences with Sean Phelps and Kim Vasick due to, unfortunately, death in the family and vacation. I see Destiny Logan is with us. Hi, Destiny. And am I missing any other? Is Maggie here? No, Maggie's not on yet. And what was that?
Diane.
Diane, is Diane here? I don't see her name. So and so that's our West End Neighborhood Council. So thank you, board, for showing up tonight. And I'd also like to approve the February WENC meeting minutes and approve the agenda and the new items. So is there a second to approve the February meeting minutes, the agenda, and new items?
A second.
Thank you, and the motion has been approved. Okay, so I'd like to introduce again Brian DePew. Would you mind giving us a treasurer's report?
No problem. All right, our balance at the end our ending balance as of last meeting was $5,884.06. Since then, we've had debts of $164.74 for our yearly Zoom subscription, $100 for the 253 window decals, $199 for the yearly lease for our mailbox at the mailroom, and 9 cents in interest credit, which leaves us a balance as of this meeting of $55,420.41. $2,940 in West End Neighborhood Council funds and $2,480 in Litter Free 253 grant funds.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian. I know we've had a lot of activity this month with Litter Free 253 coming up, and like to thank everyone for supporting that. So, okay, great, wonderful. Let's move on from updates from the City of Tacoma Liaisons. Sherry, would you like to introduce our liaisons and call them to give us some updates on what the city happenings? Oh, Sherry, you're muted. Sorry.
Yes, Tacoma Public Schools, Doug Hostetter.
Yes, hi, welcome. Thank you for having me, everyone, this evening. I've got 3 school updates. I know the agenda said Skyline and Downing Elementary, but I'm going to throw Hunt Middle School into the updates. If you've driven by the location, you can see that the building looks great from the outside. Right now, they're focusing on street improvements. They're starting grading the football field. Internally, they're painting and doing all the fit and finish work that you can expect with the new construction. Hunt Middle School, just again as a reminder, will open this fall. And our middle schools in Tacoma, as you know, are grades 6, 7, and 8. But Hunt in the fall will open with just 6th graders and 7th graders. And then the 8th graders will be added the following year. So that's my Hunt update. And then as far as Skyline Elementary School, you haven't seen any movement yet, but you will see something very soon. Starting April 1st, Skyline's track and fields are going to close to the community to accommodate the construction work on site. The school's expected to be operational by the summer of 2022, so a year from this coming summer. But your first sign of things happening at Skyline will be that we'll be closing off the track and fields and the construction company, I think it's Turner Construction, will be using that as a staging area for the Skyline's new building. I believe Brianna, the secretary from K-12, sent flyers to you, and if not, let me know and I can make sure you get them. But it talks about there's a groundbreaking celebration for Skyline happening a week from this Friday from 10:30 to 11:30. It's a virtual celebration via Facebook, but that's coming. And then there's also a virtual neighborhood meeting on Tuesday, the 13th of April from 6 to 7. And you can join that virtual neighborhood meeting for any additional updates from Skyline. But the first movement you'll see happening with Skyline will be April 1st, with all of a sudden you won't have access to walk the track or throw the ball to your dog on the football field, because that'll be closed off. And then Downing, you'll see action actually next Monday, March 22nd. They'll be putting fencing around Downing with, again, the new Downing being scheduled to open the fall of 2022. You might see a slight difference in traffic patterns because of the construction fencing along 26th and what is that, Orchard. They'll also be having a groundbreaking event on April 2nd at 10:30 via Facebook, and a virtual neighborhood meeting on Monday, April 19th from 6 to 7 p.m. at Downing. So we're excited for Hunt opening this fall, and then Skyline and Downing opening a year from this fall with brand new sparkling buildings for our kids. So I know I was told to keep it to 5 minutes, so hopefully I met that requirement. If there's any questions, I can take them.
I have a question. Are the kids
I do.
at Skyline and Downing going to stay in their building? Because this is construction's on the playground?
That's correct. Downing and Skyline kids will remain in the current buildings until the new buildings are completed.
And what about recess playgrounds?
They'll absolutely have access to recess and playgrounds. And so, it's going to be nip and tuck. I can't say that, because of construction, they might have to move where kids can have recess to a different location on the site, but it's going to be a fully operating Skyline and Downing while construction is happening.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Doug, is there, I see Betsy has a question too, but can you shed a little light on what these buildings, because I know the old Hunt Middle School building is still up. Skyline is predicted that the old building will still stay up. What is the purpose of these buildings once the new building is built? Will they continue to be used by Tacoma Public Schools, or will they be used other purposes throughout the city? Do you have any information on that?
I certainly know about Hunt because I'm the secondary education guy, and Hunt's a middle school, which I oversee. The old Hunt is pretty much gone. The only building that remains standing at the old Hunt is, I think, what the community refers to as the spaceship, the round gym area. That's going to remain. And even after the new Hunt is built, that old, what was the cafeteria area for Hunt, can be used for student access. It's not going to be a cafeteria because there'll be a new cafeteria built, but it can be used for student use to be determined, or could be used as storage as needed by the district. And in terms of Skyline and Downing, my understanding is that they're only staying as buildings while the new buildings are built. after the new Skyline and the new Hunt, excuse me, the new Downing is built, my understanding is I know for Downing's sake is that the old Downing will be leveled and the new Skyline may be repurposed, or the old Skyline may be repurposed for district meeting space. As you know,
Okay.
the PDC, we call it the Professional Development Center, is right adjacent to Skyline. So after
Sure.
the new Skyline's built, we may be able to use or repurpose the old Skyline for additional meeting space.
Okay, wonderful. And then, but that stays within Tacoma Public Schools. It doesn't go to different aspects within the city or
At
whatnot.
this moment, within Tacoma Public Schools.
Okay, all right. Thank
You
you so
bet.
much for that information. And then Betsy, you had a question too.
I do. With all of these remodels and upgrades and everything, what kind of security is being introduced into these builds to protect the students, everybody that works at the school, the students and all the staff?
You mean with the construction folk nearby?
No, what kind of security is being implemented in these builds to protect the students going forward and the staff from somebody coming in that shouldn't be there?
Okay, I get you. I understand. Okay, so yes, all our new buildings will be secured with, you have to, if you've been to, I'm trying to think of the secondary schools, Mason or Meeker or Foss High School, in order to get into the buildings, you have to show ID, and someone in the main office via camera can see the ID and they buzz you in. That same security will be in part with these new buildings. That's our new standard, is that any new building that is built really has, you have to show ID to the camera, someone in the main office can look at the ID and then buzz you in.
Okay, so what about, I mean, I heard in one of our former meetings that, that a staff member, somebody that works there can prop a door open and go outside to do something and then come back in. And so therefore there's now an unsecured entrance into the building. What are you doing to signal that there's a door open maybe that shouldn't be?
Right. I mean, your point's well taken. It certainly isn't something we expect or encourage staff to do. I'm thinking of, again, our newer buildings that have been retrofitted for security, like Foss, Mason, Meeker. There's really one point of entry for the public. And so this propping a door open at that main point of entry would be very difficult for anyone to do because there's so many people around. Now, I want to be honest and transparent. If there's a door at the rear end of the building that is not closely monitored, could a staff member or even a student put a rock in the door? Yeah, that's likely, but it's certainly something that just with recursive training for students and staff, I think we all agree that security is paramount. And so by educating students and educating teachers that even doing it for 30 seconds as you run to your car to grab, I don't know, your lunch isn't wise. It's something we shouldn't promote or encourage.
Okay, I don't have a lot of confidence in the last part of that. I get that we shouldn't be doing it, but will there be video at those doors? Will there be alarms on those doors? That's what
Oh, absolutely. These new buildings are well fitted with video cameras. So if that's what you're asking, absolutely. A video camera will capture that. In terms of alarms, the alarms are on only when people aren't present. And
Okay.
so the doors won't be alarmed necessarily, but yeah, holy cow, these new buildings will be, some of my older buildings would cherish the coverage that these new buildings will have in terms of video surveillance.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any more questions? And I'm not, okay. Thank you so much. It was most informative and it was good update for the West End schools. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Have a great
Okay.
evening.
All right.
Happy
bye-bye.
St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Yeah, cheers. Okay, and now we're going to have an update from Ted Richardson, our city liaison for the city manager's office.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sherry. My name is Ted, and I work in the city manager's office with the City of Tacoma. So 3 quick updates for you. As you might have heard, last Thursday, the American Rescue Plan was signed, and we did get a very preliminary report on how much money Tacoma will get. We are expecting approximately $63 million from that plan, and that will come in 2 installments. It can be used for 4 different things. The first is response to COVID and to mitigate any economic effects from the crisis. The second is aid to workers who are struggling through premium pay or grants to employers. The third is to supplement revenue losses for struggling government services. And the final one is investments specifically in water, sewer, or broadband. Along with that, there will also be money coming into public health from the state. There will be rental assistance, some money to housing authorities via HUD. There will be homeowner assistance, help with energy payments through LIHEAP. There will be some tourism assistance, which Tacoma possibly could get because it has higher or a greater number of tourism venues than other surrounding cities. There will be a 15% increase to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. There will be some education support for restaurants and bars, and some for shuttered venues. That long list that I just mentioned isn't going directly to Tacoma, but to other entities. But we will expect some of that to be spent within the city. So it will require us to work with the port, the public schools, public health, the state, to coordinate how we best use all of this money. And if you are interested, I will put the link in the chat to the start of the video from this week's study session. And nicely, it's the first 25 minutes of the video is our consultant in DC explaining all this information in much more detail than I can. So if you're curious about it, better than asking me questions, I suggest watching the video. So I will put that in the chat when I'm done here. The second thing, real quick, is the city, along with the port, the city of Fife, the Pierce County, and the Puyallup tribe are starting the visioning process for what the tide flats look like. I realize that is a few miles from the West End, but because it's such a big economic and environmental center, if you are interested, I'll also put all the information for how to learn about what the re-envisioning process for the tide flats looks like. And finally, I'm also going to put a link in the chat for a rental assistance program through Pierce County. So if anyone here knows anyone who might be in need of rental assistance during COVID, please send this link on to them.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the city manager? Robin?
I was wondering, what is the status of the Kmart building and the village they're going to put there?
I will find out for you, but I cannot answer that right now. But I will I can email Sherry, and if you can promise to email that on, I can do that.
Okay.
Well, that's news to us. Something going in at the Kmart building?
Yeah, they're going to put in, I can't remember how many houses around their permanent houses on that property. And they're calling it garden living or something because there's going to be some green space in the middle. And I want to say it's like for 140 people or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so Kmart was sold.
Apparently.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Is there any other question? Betsy?
Yes, when it comes to assigning the money that we're getting, that you just described, to the schools, are we going to ensure that our lower income schools get their fair share? And it doesn't just go to the upper tier schools and the certain neighborhoods. I want to make sure that our lower income people are really taken care of because they suffered the most during this.
Yeah, so I can't speak to how the school district will spend its money, but I do know that a lot of ours is going to go, well, I can't promise where ours will specifically go, but because a lot of it is for COVID relief, the populations hit hardest by COVID are the ones likely to see a majority of the relief.
So the school board's going to apportion that money?
Well, the 63 million is specifically to the city of Tacoma, and we expect schools to get other funding. So, but we do work across all those entities. So trying to best coordinate so that we're not spending too much money or spending money twice in one area.
Thank you.
All right.
Jean has a hand raised
Yes.
as well. Jean?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I just happened to see tonight that I don't know if this might be a segmented department, but that the health department, Pierce County, the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department has spent something like, I was kind of shocked, but maybe not shocked because I know they've done a great job around COVID, but has spent like $63 million on COVID. I don't know if I'm quoting that right, but I just wondered, is some of that going to be recovered with this pot of money, or is that a separate fund?
This is all new money. The reimbursement money that some projects would be eligible for is through FEMA. And
Oh, okay.
so I know that the city has been somewhat reticent to do that because you have to have the money up front. And most of this, so the city has tried not to engage with that because it's not guaranteed that you're going to get that money back from FEMA. But again, I can speak to the city of Tacoma, but not to the health department.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Ted. I did copy your information off of the chat box. Thank you for providing it. All righty. And Lieutenant Darlington on an update for the West End.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Good evening, Corey Darlington with the Tacoma Police Department. I'm the Sector 2 Commander. I'm filling in for Community Liaison Officer Braz tonight. And I just have a couple of items to discuss. One is the alcohol impact area. So I submitted that earlier to Sherry and Liz to review that report that I submitted to Liquor Cannabis Control Board, and they can share it with the rest of the neighborhood council, whoever is interested. But the reason I sent that out is just for situational awareness and familiarity with the program. Just a quick review. That was established in, I believe, 2014, excuse me, by the West End Neighborhood Council. And it has to do with banning certain high alcohol content beverages and products, mainly in convenience stores and grocery stores. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. Anyway, so alcohol impact area AIA report. And then the second part of that, just a quick review, statistical analysis. So that indicates everything is going in the right way in terms of police calls for service have plummeted as opposed to 2014-15. Fire calls for service for alcohol related incidents has also decreased. And then I mentioned this earlier to Sherry and Liz that I think it would be a good idea for the neighborhood council to submit a letter, just a brief letter of support for the AIA, because my sense is that if there's not a show of support, that it might be discontinued. Okay, and then the next thing is I'm getting this from other citizen groups. So the topic is street racing. So I'll talk briefly on that. Very difficult to enforce. We have, the department has hosted 4 set missions, that's special emphasis teams that involves State Patrol, Lakewood, Fife, Pierce County agencies, and I believe a JBLM contingent. So very costly, involves a lot of officers, has to do with tracking down where these locations might occur on social media. The idea is to not have people take over our quality of life and infringe on our rights. So we're trying to address that. And so we've had the last couple of Saturdays, those set missions, and then there are more upcoming. So I just thought I'd mention that. If anyone has any questions or comments, that would be fine.
Well, I have a comment. I noticed 2 brand new cars I've never even seen before, like hot off the car lot, highly charged cars with the double mufflers. I mean, obviously they bought these cars because they knew that racing was hot in Tacoma. And I just saw them last week and I was shocked by the kind of car that I saw, kind of like a really jazzed up, I don't know cars, but even a hotter, a little bit bigger Mustang with double muffler. They were shiny, brand new cars. And I thought, oh, these are racers. I mean, they looked like it.
They're also up and down 19th and 6th Ave, those racers up and down.
Gosh. And Ruston Way.
Have you had a
Yeah, so
complaint
back to those
specifically with
missions.
with those areas, the 6th Ave and the by us towards Titlow and 19th towards the train tracks? Because we've had a lot of those racing activities. Has that been an area that you guys are aware of?
Right, so that's what those set missions are targeting all those areas you just mentioned. So the officers are out there in the middle of the night. Typically it'd be a Friday or Saturday night. Nothing against patrol, but there are not very many patrol officers out there, so it's not feasible. In other words, it's not feasible for them to be engaging in that type of activity. They certainly will. So that's why we have officers dedicated to that specific mission, if you will, to focus on deterring that type of negative activity. So that is, I'm just mentioning it because it is occurring. So
Any more
we are taking action, and at a pretty steep price, I might add too.
Yes, I agree. Well, we appreciate you bringing this, letting us know that you guys are working on it, because
Okay,
it's a concern.
and then I'll check the chat box if there's something.
And we also will write that letter of support, making sure that the West End stays as the alcohol impact area. So, or high alcohol impact area. So thank you so much for that nice report, Lieutenant Darlington. It was very well put together, and we'll post that on our website in case anyone else is interested in looking at the statistics over the years that it was implemented versus now. It does definitely have an impact on reducing violence and crimes and vandalism in our area. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And if people look at the report, as I mentioned, or what you just mentioned, if they look at the historical figures, that shows that we're headed in the right direction. We would like to maintain that. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye. All right, and the last liaison is just a message that I put in the chat box from Leslie Barstow of Port of Tacoma. And there's going to be a port meeting on March 18th. The commission will be taking a look at what they hope is their final new Port of Tacoma strategic plan. And then they're going to have public input. So if you want to see what Leslie Barstow or Port Liaison is sharing this month, please look in the chat box. Okay, and now we are going to our guest speakers. So that would go back to you, Liz.
Sounds good. Well, I just noticed that John with Utilities and Councilmember Hines
Okay, I did
joined us as well. So I think we should hit
John
them
Hines.
first.
Okay, oh my goodness, I didn't see that. Okay.
Sorry.
I'll
Councilmember
do
Hines.
the honor to, yeah, Councilmember Hines.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you,
Since John
John.
goes first, I see how it is. No, nothing too much to talk about tonight. You all, I just wanted to come in and check in. I just was in a meeting talking about street racing and speeding cars with another neighborhood council member or two. So it's kind of funny to walk into that one. As Lieutenant Darling said, that there has been emphasis patrols every weekend, kind of addressing that concern for the last couple weeks. So that's on the radar out there. I don't think there's anything else that I would want to mention, and not at this time. I'm just here to listen. I also was very curious to hear the update on the James Center project from THA. So if people have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but otherwise it's just great to be on the West End again.
Well, I have a comment. I saw, I think it was Miss Ushka's newsletter here the other day, and she had quite a few different things going on in the city, which you don't have to, go into, about trash. And it appears to me that the city is getting, and the council, much more serious about Tacoma's trash issues and taking action. And I appreciate that.
Yes, she had a plug for your Litter Free 253 on there. Yeah, I think we've heard not only from Sherry, but from lots of people about the concerns around litter, trash, kind of throughout the city, and the city's working on multiple projects there. Hopefully there'll be some more announcements, more things coming out in the near future. It's been a topic that multiple council members have been kind of talking about and what we can do, especially kind of coming out of COVID, people being in more business districts, people being out more, what can we do to make sure the city is as attractive as possible?
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, and I know we're going to hear from library, and who was our other person that was here? John Gaines. Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. Great to be here. I selfishly try to attend a couple of meetings a night. A couple of meetings is taking advantage of the virtual space, but I'll be extremely quick. I just want to remind folks that we offer a lot of different rebates, and I want to put the daylight the savings and daylight savings. I finally messed up my joke, but I hope you all laugh. You can find out more about our rebate program. I'll put a chat into the chat box, but again, there's rebates on water heaters, windows, and then small items like shower heads and thermostats. And so I hope folks take advantage of that. The second update I would like to share is our new Tacoma Powers outage portal. Please don't forget to set your notification preferences so you can stay in the know when the power goes out. And for more information, I will also put a link into the chat box. And then the second to last update, there's been a lot of questions in regards to tree coupons, and I want to give an update on that. If you are looking to plant a tree on your property, the tree coupon program is a great way to learn how planting trees at your home will help us grow the urban tree cover in Tacoma, and you can learn more about that mytpu.org/plantyourstory. And I'll also put a link in the chat for that. And then lastly, as most of you have heard, there is some rental assistance right now, but something that I'm not seeing on a lot of flyers. Once folks apply for this and they get some of their rent paid, the county will use the rest of those funds to help cover utility assistance as well. So I'm trying to spread that word, and you can find out more about that program on the Pierce County website. Those are my updates. Again, my name is John Gaines, Tacoma Powers Community Relations Manager.
Thank you so much, John. Any questions for Mr. Gaines? All right, and we have Michelle from Swayze Library.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Macero. I'm a librarian at Tacoma Public Library, and I'm really happy to announce that Swayze was chosen as one of the 2 pilot libraries to open, and we opened yesterday to the public. So it does look a little bit different than it used to. We're doing 4 sessions a day, and we would like you to sign up if at all possible, make an appointment online. If not, we do have walk-up position slots as well. And we will continue to do TPL to go as well, if you like the curbside service. But we're just really excited to have the doors open. And I believe we had 34 people on our first day that were all really happy to be back in the library too. Thank you.
Very good. My husband will be happy to hear that. Any questions for our local librarian? Okay. Are there any other liaisons out in the audience?
Fire department.
Fire department, here we go. Okay.
My name is Gil Barthay with the Tacoma Fire Department, working the north end here tonight. Just a quick update on some of the stuff that's going on around TFD. One of our main initiatives for 2021 is implementing a basic life support transport program for the city. We're going to start with that hopefully next month in April. We'll put 2 8 cars into service, which will start in the downtown core. And then we'll follow up in the fall by adding 3 more basic life support 8 cars for transport, and those be citywide at that point. So it's kind of a new initiative for us. We'll probably start seeing a few more. They look like our paramedic units, but they'll be staffed with firefighter EMTs as opposed to firefighter paramedics. And we're kind of excited to be providing this new service to the city and the citizens. As far as our public safety message for the month, it goes along with National Poison Prevention Week. The motto is prepare, prevent, and protect. And we're talking about accidental overdoses and poisonings from household medications, as well as hazardous materials that are kind of found around just your average house that can fall into the wrong hands. Specifically with drugs and medications within your house, just reminding you to keep all prescription medications, especially prescription painkillers, locked up and in a secure location to keep out of the wrong hands. Try to keep medications in their original bottle, so that way they don't get mixed up with, more potent medications don't get mixed up with less potent medications. And also please dispose of any unused or unneeded or expired medications. It doesn't take too long, just living life that you end up with kind of a stockpile of unused medications in your house. And the best thing that you can do to prevent poisoning is to get those out of your home. Tacoma Police Department has a program where they do take back medications. And I'll put the website up in the chat when I'm done talking. And it's takebackyourmeds.org, and it'll give links to locations where you can properly dispose of medications. The second area would be household chemicals. If you look underneath your sink, your laundry room, or in your garage, you'd be surprised at how many pretty dangerous chemicals are in there. Just quick, another reminder, keep chemical bottles in their original container so you know what they are. Don't accidentally mix together 2 chemicals. 2 chemicals that aren't too dangerous on their own, when they get mixed together, can be quite dangerous and even deadly if they fall into the wrong hands. The city landfill does take a variety of household hazardous waste. I'll put the phone number up for them so we can again properly dispose of anything that's unused that could be dangerous. Just the best thing is just get it out of your house. And also I'll put the phone number for the Washington State Poison Control Center. It's a 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week resource. If you have any questions on a medication or a household chemical, if somebody accidentally ingests it or comes in contact, is a great resource. And then again, if it's an emergency, somebody's having ill effects, always call 911 and we're happy to come out and help with that situation. Any questions for the fire department?
Clarification. So your focus this month is prepare, prevent medication overdose, not necessarily drug overdose.
Yeah, so we're talking about accidental household overdoses.
Accidental household, okay.
But that can be, that covers a wide gamut. So it can be accidental, like a child getting into it. It can be intentional from someone taking a medication in an improper way for self-harm or for recreational purposes. So it covers kind of a wide gamut of safety associated with household medications and pharmaceuticals.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. And Whitney from Metro Parks.
So hi, my name is Whitney Dahl-Belkin. I'm representing Metro Parks. I'm also the marketing and communications manager for Point Defiance Zoo and Northwest Trek. So March 5th, we're very excited. We reopened both of our aquariums with a lot of new safety features and a guest capacity that's under 25% at this time. And we are very busy. Our community has been looking for fun, safe places to go reconnect with family and have fun. The other announcement I have, and I'll also put it in the chat, is Metro Parks is co-hosting a drive-through resource fair on Saturday, April 3rd at Star Center for the community. And we're really hoping to get some donations socks, blankets, masks, non-perishable food, school supplies. So if you would like to contribute, we would encourage you to do that. We're expecting to serve a few hundred families. And if you think if you know of folks who might need a little extra help, they can just show up as well. So, and that's all I have.
All righty, thank you so much. Any questions for Metro Parks?
Whitney, can you tell me that date one more time?
Sure, it is Saturday, April 3rd at the Star Center from noon to 3.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty, any more liaisons? Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to hear that we have libraries reopening, aquariums reopening. We're headed in the right direction, everyone. Wonderful. So we have a couple of great presentations tonight. Shauna is here from the Environmental Services Department to talk about watershed health and Tacoma, right?
Right.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thanks, Liz. I am going to, actually, could I share my screen?
Yes, hold on one second. Let me make sure.
Okay.
Do you see the share screen button? Does it say that you
Yes.
can do it?
It
Okay.
says it's disabled.
Oh, let me try the other option. It says, oh, oops, I'm sharing mine. Not okay. Hold on one second.
Oh, but now I can share mine too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to stop sharing mine.
Okay.
Okay. Can you share yours still?
Yes, actually, let me do this one. Okay. Share.
There we go.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here to talk a little bit about the city's new watershed planning efforts that are going on. And the first thing I wanted to do to kind of get us in the mood about talking about watersheds is to actually, I was going to, I'll share a link in the chat, but I don't know if I can do that now. I'm sharing screen too. So I will just do this on my screen. To find out where you live, in which watershed do you live? So in the west end, it's broken into about 3 watersheds, and that depends on where the surface water in your neighborhood flows to, which major direction. So the very western slopes edge flows into the Narrows, and you can see that shown in yellow. Are you seeing my screen in the map there?
Yes, we are. Thank you. Great. It's clear, yeah.
And then North Tacoma is in purple, and that flows over to Commencement Bayside. And then there's a small area in green in the middle that is the Leech Creek watershed, and all the water in that part of the neighborhood flows south into the Leech Creek, and then which goes into Chambers Creek eventually, which is a salmon-bearing stream. And so I just was wondering if you could type in the chat which of those 3 watersheds that you live in, just to help you kind of identify. And as you can see too, the watersheds in the north and west end are really, there's a lot of small little creeks in the area, kind of along the edges of the waterfront. Of course, there's the shoreline. And then Leech Creek is actually a pretty high quality creek to the south of us. It's right outside of city limits to the south of us, goes through Fircrest. So now with that, if you've been able to locate where you are in our watershed, then I did want to ask you a couple of questions about that. And I was just going to type the answers in here, but also if you wanted to type them in the chat too, that would be helpful for me for later. So you can either share them out loud and I can type them here, or you can type them in the chat about what's your favorite thing about your watershed. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about that. So when we talk about watershed too, we're thinking about, you know, the natural setting in the watershed, like the trees, the streams and creeks, or the green spaces and green areas. But we're also thinking about the built environment, because in Tacoma, all the watersheds are combined between what's still left and natural, and then what's been built as part of the development of the city. So we're thinking about, you know, the streets, the type of streets you have in your neighborhood, or if you got commercial areas in your neighborhood. So anything like that, you can talk about what's your favorite part of the watershed. But a lot of times people have kind of favorite places they like to go and hang out outside in the watershed. So anything you want to share would be great. Does anyone want to share out loud?
I saw it in action today at Point Defiance Park, as well as I usually see it at Titlow. So I saw water draining down, you know, causing kind of mud puddles just from the end of, you know, start to spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, Sherry. Anybody else want to share about what they notice or what they like about their part of the watershed? Okay, well then my next question is, what are some needs or challenges where you live in the watershed? And so what I'm thinking about, you know, when I think about that is something like, you know, is there a challenge of dumping? You know, litter, of course, is a big one throughout the city. And, or, you know, if there's just a lot of traffic, and so then, you know, there's a lot of polluted runoff coming out the streets, or if there's just other challenges or needs that you can identify where you live in the watershed that might impact clean water, that might impact healthy habitats. So we're interested in learning more from neighbors and neighborhoods about what they see, you know, when you're outside walking around, what you see in your neighborhood that might be a challenge to the watershed in your neighborhood.
Sean, I know. Oh, go on, Sherry.
I saw somebody spraying their tree, whatever you call that tree section of your sidewalk, that little 3-foot space, with poison today as I was going down to Point Defiance, you know, to keep it weed free. I'm sure they were spraying a weed killer very dutifully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely impacts.
Shauna, just in the chat, and I'd like to echo Robin and Sherry. Robin says too much litter and street pollution from vehicles. And I'd like to echo that as well. I think we have a lot of litter, and frankly, I don't think that there are enough collection receptacles. And I know that seems like a problem with the city, that there's not enough labor to pick up those collection receptacles. But, you know, I think walking the streets, and now I don't live in a neighborhood with sidewalks, but there's dog feces that people don't pick up. And I think collection receptacles would help with that as well. And I know that happens to be a somewhat of a problem in the sound. Also with older cars or unmaintained cars leaking whatever fluids, there seems to be a lot of trails on roads. So I see a lot of trash and a lot of fluids, and basically, you know, particles from tires, all that on streets.
Thanks, Liz. Those are all really good. I mean, not good. Those are not good, but they're they're good examples anyway of the challenges that are in your neighborhood for the watershed. I appreciate that. Anyone else think of anything? I also will, you know, definitely be reading the chat after I stop sharing my screen. So I appreciate anything that's going in the chat too.
And Lieutenant Darlington said he'd like to see holding ponds to keep pollutants out of the sound. And then Robin made a comment, said there's lots of new apartments being built.
Yes, definitely. Development definitely impacts watershed health for sure. So yeah, so actually, you know, I just kind of wanted to start with those activities just to get us thinking in the watershed frame of mind. But so basically what we're doing right now, I work in the Environmental Services Department, and for the first time ever, the City of Tacoma is creating its own watershed management plan. There's a lot of other regional watershed plans in the county that the city's plan will support, but this is the first time that the Tacoma has had our own watershed plan developing. And so as part of that, we're definitely going to be going out to the different neighborhoods and trying to engage with neighborhoods about what the concerns are in their watershed, because part of the plan is basically to prioritize the most important places in the city to invest in stormwater management actions that would help protect clean water and green spaces in the city and the health of our habitats throughout the city. And so knowing, you know, what are the concerns in your neighborhood is going to help us with the prioritization of what we end up doing in different parts of town. And here I just wanted to share that we're looking for opportunities for watershed engagement. Besides development of the watershed plan, we're really excited to be in help with the April 17th citywide litter pickup event and be involved there. So that's a great connection with watershed health. And it's just so gratifying that you're actually organizing this and making this happen, kind of a grassroots effort, because this is just really going to help with clean water, because then all that garbage and that waste will not be washing down the storm drains in the street and getting into our creeks and into Puget Sound. So great job there. Thank you so much for your efforts there. We also, my department has just recently hired some artists to develop some stencil art to paint around storm drains with water safe paint that would you know, not be obviously a source of pollution, but we're really excited. We're going to be rolling those out soon. The stencils are not quite created yet, but they're almost ready. And so if they are ready in time for April 17th, we're hoping that we might be able to, as the kind of the first places in the city where we might be stenciling, we might be able to stencil in the areas identified for the cleanup event. So we'll see if that comes together. And actually, that part of that would be getting volunteers who could do the painting the few weeks, maybe the first few weeks of April, getting ready for the event if it's available by then. So maybe I will keep in touch with Liz and Sherry. And if that comes together, maybe some of you might be able to help with that effort. That would be great. Also, we have an Adopt a Drain program that's just getting started as well. It's not quite ready yet, but hopefully by the end of March or maybe in April. And that program, you can volunteer to sponsor a storm drain in front of your house or on your street block. And basically what you would be doing is keeping an eye on it, keeping the garbage out of it, and raking the leaves off of it in the fall if there's trees nearby, to just keep the storm drain clear. And then tracking and sending us back information about like how much garbage have you actually removed from the storm drain area. And then we'll be tracking that on a citywide scale to, because that can be also kind of an issue in some neighborhoods. We also have dog waste stations that you can sponsor. It's a free station that can be installed. It has to be installed near a right-of-way, so it's accessible from the right-of-way, but usually it's on kind of the front end of somebody's yard is where it gets installed, maybe behind the sidewalk. And it's just the bags though. It's just the bag rolls and we do provide the bag rolls to you and the station, and we install the station if you apply to be a sponsor. And your job would just be to restock the bags, make sure that it stays stocked, and then report to us if anything goes wrong or if it gets vandalized or something. But if you're interested in that, if you find that there's a lot of dog waste on your block, you can always apply for our program through our website, which I will put in the chat at the end. And then, as I mentioned before, the other thing that we'd really like to work with you on is developing our watershed management plan priorities. And we're in this is kind of the calendar and the cycle of where we are in developing the program right now. So we're still in the research phase and starting with the stakeholder and community involvement now. And basically through the summer is when we'll be doing that. And so if you are interested in keeping in touch with us and helping us with prioritizing our action plan for the watershed, then I would encourage you to, I just skip ahead here, either email me or visit our website. And but for now, email me, because actually I don't think we have the sign up for the email listserv quite ready on the website. So we're almost there with all these efforts, but we're getting in on the front end with you with them. So you can go ahead and email me. And also I'll just continue to be in touch with the West End Neighborhood Council as well when those opportunities like workshops, watershed workshops start coming available. So we'd really like to get you involved with that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Shauna. That was a great presentation. And everyone, I'd like to encourage you to be voices of the West End, and please do email Shauna to get involved. This is an important issue. We live in such a beautiful part of Tacoma with all of our parks, and we're interested in keeping healthy waters. And Shauna, I did want to let you know that Sandra in the chat had a comment about catch basins and saying that some are worn or they're coming off.
I see that.
So if you wouldn't mind just addressing that before.
Yes, and thank you, Sandra, for mentioning that. So that is one thing that we have a goal of marking all of the catch basins with these oval signs that you're talking about throughout the city. And this has been a multi-year effort. We've been doing this for about a decade now, just kind of working our way through the city with volunteers helping to do the marking. And so yes, some of them are looking a little worse for wear. And so that is a good point, and that's something that I will bring back to our stormwater group and see if there's like a plan for replacing those or updating those.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shauna. I appreciate that. Does anyone else have any questions for Shauna? I don't know who said that, but
Betsy,
go for it. Oh, Betsy,
do
sure.
you have a plan, or is it in your radar to partner with anyone to talk about rain gardens and how they can help protect our watershed? Because Pierce County Master Gardeners has a rain garden plan, and they will come out and help people. So I don't know if it, getting the word out from Master Gardener, we reach some part of the community, but maybe you reach a different part, and what rain gardens can really do to help protect our environment.
Thank you, Betsy. That is a really good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Yes, we do have a rain garden technical assistance program. I'm actually the contact for that, and we have worked with Master Gardeners, and they work with Pierce Conservation District as well to help with the design of the plants for rain gardens if you are interested in building a rain garden in your front yard. And the Pierce Conservation District, with the help of the Master Gardeners, will provide a free rain garden design and sizing for you, because it does depend on how much water is coming from how much of your roof and driveways or sidewalks are going into the rain garden as to how big the footprint needs to be to sufficiently infiltrate and soak up all the water. So that's why it's good to have their help on that, and also with plant selection. So if you are interested in building a rain garden, which is basically like a little depression in your front yard with plants in it, where in the low spot where the rain would flow to and then soak into the ground. And if you are interested in something like that, you can also contact me about that. and we can get you hooked up with Master Gardeners in Pierce Conservation District.
I think here's conservation. Some of that offers some grants to certain people. So there might be a grant money available to help with the construction and the purchase of plants too. So keep that in mind if you know somebody that might be eligible for a rain garden.
Thank you, Betsy.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Shauna. Great information. I'd like to introduce our next two presenters that are going to be talking about the James North Center. We have Shirley Schultz and Josh Jorgensen from Tacoma Housing Authority, and Shirley is with the City Development Services. So thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much, Liz. As you said, my name is Shirley Schultz. I'm a principal planner in Planning and Development Services for the City of Tacoma. And I'm the planner who's been working with Tacoma Housing Authority on both master planning and their permitting. Now they're permitting for James Center North. I'm going to try to keep my part really short. I talk really fast and really turn the project description and everything over to Josh. I did want to thank you for having us here tonight. I know it's a tight agenda, but this does help us kind of do some of our public outreach and can substitute for a formal public meeting. And I actually think that coming to Neighborhood Council reaches some more people. So I'm really glad to be here. Really what I would like to do with the few minutes I take is make sure that people know how to access things that we have when you get a postcard notice or when you see a sign that has a land use notice sign on it, where you can find out more. And so I know that there are a lot of you here who are new to the Neighborhood Council and maybe haven't looked one up before. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Thank you, Shauna, for doing this first, and maybe we could get to mine too. And what I want to show you is just really a way to look at a permit. And I would have to remember to click the share button. There we go. So there's many ways. This is our City of Tacoma Permits website. Very easy to find, tacomapermits.org. And this takes you to the homepage. And if you've never visited it, if you're planning any project, if you want to find anything out about our permits, I suggest that you check it out. Tip sheets have a ton of information, maps. You can find out a lot about your own property. You can look up permits and see kind of what kind of proposals being made on a certain site or things like that. When you get a postcard notice, the quickest way to find it is to actually go to the Apply for Permits link. Don't worry, you're not gonna, accidentally apply for a new bathroom or something like that. And that bumps you over to our permitting site, which looks different, but it's integrated with our website. And in this case, I know that Josh's project is a permit number, and I just totally forgot it, but I think it's land use 200255. So let's try that. The nice thing about this search field is you can put in an address or a parcel number, and that will also help you get there. You do not need to have an account. You can just search for public information. Is it the right one? Nope. How about 225? Josh, help me here.
I know you gave me an easy one the first time at 123. Let me see if I can pull it up for you.
No. Oh, let me. Sorry, guys. How about 235? I really did know what it was before I logged in. 235. There we go. And what that does is once you search for it, it's going to take a little time, and it zooms you in on the site at 1610 Mildred. And here's what the status is. This is the important button, is the record info. And if the internet cooperates with me, it should expand. Please. Is everybody there? You can still see this and it's making me wait?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. So the important thing, if it opens, when it opens, is under this record info tab, you will see what the project description is and what the proposal is. This is the same that would be on a public notice. This is the same that goes on a public notice sign. And then you can get to the attachments. And I checked, and yes, they're there. So this is when you get a public notice, you can look up the applicant's narrative, their proposal, their pictures, their site plans. Most special studies will also be loaded in here. So if you want to read a traffic study, because the THA proposal includes a plat, which is adjusting property boundaries, there's some survey information and some information like that. So that's just a really quick way to get into the portal. The only other thing I want to show you on our page, and I keep running into the Zoom menu, is back on Tacoma permits. Does that take us back? No. The second most helpful information here is the contact us line. So if you're looking for any division, anybody that you want to speak to in planning and development services, there's also a staff directory. So say, I know I talked to Shirley last week on the phone, but I don't remember her phone number. You can actually look up my name and number. And with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing and introduce Josh Jorgensen, who's with Tacoma Housing Authority. He can give you the history of the project, but in short, Tacoma Housing Authority owns the James Center North Shopping Center, and they have applied to redevelop it. As I had mentioned, there's some property boundary adjustment there. And the way that we are approaching the approval of that is through a binding site plan, which is a commercial property division, and a site plan approval. And so that is the land use permit we're working. At the same time, we are trying and hoping to do all of the environmental review for the full scope, rather than just saying, hey, we'll do this building this year and 2 or 3 years from now, we'll do that building. And so the big piece of this really, although I'm sure maybe some of our civil engineers would disagree with me, but it's the environmental review. So we're looking at how stormwater is handled. We're looking at how traffic is handled. We're looking somewhat at the layout of the site, although in most cases, the THA has just done so much background work with their master plan that it does meet all of our zoning code requirements. This area is zoned and has been zoned for, well, it just had its 25th birthday. So it's had its 25th birthday as a high density mixed use center. So it's planned for and meant to be big apartment buildings and mixed use districts with businesses and open space and things like that. And so with that, I will turn it over to Josh, and then I'm here for questions. I will put my email in the chat. Our public notice period closes on March 22nd, but it will probably be some time before you all get a decision notice postcard, because there's still stormwater to work out on that. So Josh.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shirley. And thank you for everybody else too. As Shirley mentioned, the city and the housing authority, separate entities. And but we do appreciate the close coordination with this project individually. It's nice to see some familiar faces too, and some new faces as well. I'm glad that you've continued to have the meetings throughout, even with this special year, as interesting as it has been. We definitely haven't forgotten about this project, and we're excited to pick it back up and definitely work with the city as we go through this initial permitting process. With that, I will share my screen as well, and I'll go through our master plan. And how's our time? Are we still planning on being done at 8? Sherry, 8 o'clock?
We're just going to do the best we can,
Okay.
and we'll probably go beyond 8 because we got
Okay.
a couple more presenters after you.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll shoot to have mine done in 15 minutes, but I'm available before, during, after for questions whenever you guys need. Sherry has my email, and feel free to share that with anyone. So with that, you can see my screen here. We have a rendering of our James Center North development. Everybody see that? I see some head nods. Excellent. So this is facing Mount Rainier. You can see in the background, I'll use my cursor throughout to point out some different items. Behind this building, you see TCC as well, and then Mildred would be right there, and a couple other building ideas. Again, we're not committing to anything colors-wise or anything like that, but just to give an idea of some of what we consider to be high-quality design that we're looking at. And I'll point out trash cans for you, Sherry. We've got those scattered throughout strategically. Some bike share. Yeah, scooters, of course. This is up to other things that are going on. Let me see. And for some, oh, there we go. Table of contents. Again, I have this master plan to share. Sherry, I've sent you a link, and you can always feel free to send that to anyone else too. Lots of the partners, different consultants that we've worked with throughout this process, different staff names too with THA. This is an existing street that's on the site. executive summary outlines the high goals that we've started out with this project and some of the background too. Again, it's just under 7 acres. We purchased the property in late 2017 and have been working with tenants and our master planners throughout that time. We've got the CCX zoning too that Shirley mentioned and all of that. Some context, you're already familiar with the site. This is the existing site with some buildings from the aerial, and then this is the rendering and the footprints that we plan on with the new site. And again, forgive me for going quickly, but if anybody has an urgent question, feel free to jump in. James Center South over here, University Place, Fircrest, TCC, all of this is later on in the report as well. Some guiding principles too. Hopefully many of you are already familiar with THA's mission. But we really, envision a vibrant and diverse community for all. Design, mobility is important for this section individually, this property individually, with it being so close to the transit station and then future light rail, hopefully. Prioritizing places for people. Design should be people oriented. We know that people needs to be valued in that kind of way. Strengthening partnerships in the community, specifically with TCC, other entities, Pierce Transit, Sound Transit, all of that. Many others, lots of partners in this. New model of development. This is new for THA to own this type of commercial shopping plaza. And so we've learned a lot through this process, and we really see the value in it, both for our tenants as well as future residents. I mentioned the tenants over here too, lots of small, diverse commercial tenants that we have on site right now. We've always intended and still intend on honoring those leases and making sure that they have a smooth transition when needed. The flavor of West Tacoma is a beautiful place, lots of amenities, and we want to add to that, not detract. And then also how cities, Tacoma specifically, has changed over time, and how we predict it will continue to change. And we want to make sure that it's continues to be an equitable and diverse place for residents. Keep going through. Lots of community output throughout 2018, 2019. This plan got formally adopted by THA in 2019. And I think I presented in late 2019 to this group before. So not a whole lot new on that front. We continue to try some different things. We had food trucks out there with Chowtown to activate one of the front lots. And we had lots of other input since then too, just as various topics have come up. We've got these categorized. We had a stakeholder advisory group. Sherry participated in that. We appreciate that participation, as well as some of our commercial tenants. And then we also did some open houses too, where some of the rest of the community joined us. We also did a bird box building event where we had some different people that wouldn't necessarily come to our other open houses, lots of families, kids. And so that was kind of an innovative for us way of doing things and getting some input that way. We talked to other developers. In this plan, we anticipate that it'll be a public-private partnership with other development partners that will build a variety of housing that THA doesn't normally build on all ends of the housing income spectrum. So mixed use, mixed income, again, a very diverse type of property. And then some of the aspirational goals too, you can see later on with the renderings about the community park that we have designed in there. Safe environment, lighting is important. Again, synergies with the community college next door, the building community, what these buildings look like, making sure that they fit in with the neighborhood, views to Rainier, and then also public art too. It's very near and dear to THA's heart to make these active and vibrant and innovative places. Again, how this master plan came about, some of the different outcomes with transit, amenities, open space, market demand. We've talked about a little of those already. Other design drivers too. We use drivers in different ways here with cars, roads, streets. Like Shirley mentioned, we really spent a lot of time figuring out how this property would fit in with the way the property is existing, and then also our neighboring properties. I should say our neighbors too, the adjacent properties. I'll skip that one. Implementing principles, again, placemaking strategies, urban design components. We take all of these things very seriously, both how they integrate into the community and then also function too. So I'll just go through a few of these items too, and we can take some questions at the end with any details. Because of the proximity, again, sorry, Mildred here. We have James Center South over here, Lakeside Landing to the north, Tennis and Trampoline Center over here, and then Tacoma Vista too. So hopefully you can see my cursor for all of those. TCC, again, the close proximity, we've always known that there's demand for student housing in the area. We anticipate that it will go on, get built up near Mildred because of the proximity right across the street. And also this is a good size for developers from what we've heard. And again, variety, we have market rate housing here. We think it'll be a variety of incomes. Student rate, parking access under here in this next building, we've got a better phasing diagram at the end. This would be probably phase 1A or 1B. We have a road coming off of Mildred here. These are not named streets already, but more just for reference. This is the community park that I mentioned. This would be where we anticipate most of the commercial space that we retain or rebuild would go. Currently, we've got about 60,000 square feet of commercial space. It might be a little less, and we'll probably pare that down to around 20,000 if the full plan gets built out. This would probably be where more of the traditional affordable housing would go. And again, it'll probably be a mix of incomes. And then this building was set aside for community use. This one I haven't mentioned already. We're big fans of El Sabor as well as the rest of our commercial tenants, but we've continued to hear that it's a fan favorite in West Tacoma, and I'll definitely vouch for their veggie burrito. And with that, I'll keep going. So site access, we talked a little bit about the roads coming off of Mildred. Again, Mildred here on the far right. 15th Street, we do not own. That's owned by Tacoma Vista, and it's access for them. It's a beautiful tree-lined street. We don't anticipate doing anything to that aside from adding trees on our side, probably. We also have this existing driveway, which bisects the property. That one would remain. And then 17th Street, we also don't own, but have a shared easement with the neighboring building owners. Center Street, we anticipate that this one would match up pretty closely with the drive aisle that's on the south, and that'll go all the way to 19th, where we think that the light rail may end up, light rail extension. And then again, for access, this one goes with an existing driveway all the way through and fits in pretty nicely with the grid that we've created here. You'll notice up here, it's a little strange because of the grade change, and I've got a further diagram later on in the presentation to show that. Street character, you can see how everything moves around. Actually, let me back up. This pink road here, we call kind of our festival street. It'll be more pedestrian oriented. It'll be great for drop-offs, pickups, deliveries, lots of back entrance on some of the restaurants, retail that we anticipate. And then it navigates around this urban park too that we have. Yeah, design drivers, again, some of the different view corridors that we've anticipated, as well as some of the other traffic flows too. And like Shirley said, all of that can be found in some of our other reports that we've submitted. Visibility, I mentioned, we have about a 45-foot grade change from Mildred over on this side to the back of our far western building on this side. So you have this kind of big leap here, this cliff that we're planning on designing around. Neighborhood, regional connections, we have the business districts that are over here. We're over here in the Crossroads Center, again, on the intersection University Place for Crest, TCC, and then James Center South and North over here. You can see how it interacts with the rest of the city as a whole. Some other connections to roads and the way that the roadways connect through. This one doesn't actually connect through, but it would be ideal sometime in the future potentially to figure out how that kind of connect. And then some other residential aerial shots that you can see as well. Again, some improved pedestrian crossings. We have one here that you can go across pretty easily. Again, trying to make sure that we can honor the transit-oriented development nature of this and make it as easy as possible to get to the bus transit station here and then the light rail transit station there. These are some street typologies that we have. Streets will be different widths. We'll have different abilities for on-street parking and some of the other amenities. Stoops are a big deal, just figuring out how that fine grain urban design makes it an appealing place to be for users of all types. Sorry, we can go through these: arterial streets, local urban streets, residential streets, pedestrian streets. There's some detail in all of that. Again, here's the visual, these crosscuts of different street types. Again, real slow traffic. We anticipate that, you know, they won't be major byways, thoroughways. But you can see how there's enough space for users of all types. All right. Again, active ground floor use, making sure that pedestrians and other ground floor uses interact appropriately. There are some code requirements to have non-residential uses up along Mildred for its pedestrian street status. And again, making sure that the way the business frontages look would be different from residential frontages for a variety of reasons, privacy and otherwise. You'll notice on this diagram too, we have parking at the plaza level, which would be here. So it's kind of a daylit parking garage, not technically underground. There would be parking under this building as well. You can see that diagram too, the crosscut down to Mildred on this side, and then the highest point over here. All right, again, we've got some uses here, some community gardens, the hill climb. This would be a staired access point so that you get over that little cliff area. Playground, play mound, grassy area, urban sport court, seating area potentially for restaurants that are here. Again, all initial concepts and ideas, but that's the layout that we've gone with and had good success and good feedback from. You will notice this blue line throughout. It's meant to be more symbolic than anything, but in some of the different community meetings we heard that connection to water is important for the site. And there's a bunch of amenities in the area around, both with the wetlands over by TCC, Lakeside Landing, all of those. There wasn't a huge need for any one specific thing at James Center, but to definitely act as a connector to a lot of those things. And that can take a variety of forms. Again, a different view, TCC would be over here, Mildred. You'll notice, I want to point out the green roofs. We're not officially saying that they are green roofs. We always aim and strive for some level of green building in our buildings, but it was more appealing than looking at gray roofs. So whether there's solar up there, whether there's grass, whether there's outdoor seating, whether there's helicopter pads, that always came up as kind of a joke, but technology continues to improve and who knows what will happen in 50 years. Again, the El Sabor over here with this food hall type idea, pocket parks, plazas, and then the overlook too, and how that visual corridor gets built out is important. Sustainability, of course, is a driving and underlying theme throughout all of our designs. It continues to mean different things to different peoples, and it shows in different ways throughout our properties. Green building is one of those features for sure, as well as community and economic vitality, ecological value. We've seen just in the last year how much we really appreciate our small businesses and how vulnerable they can be to different circumstances. So we want to make sure to factor all that into our decision making in our built environments. And then with the ecological value too, and we've got you can see these street trees throughout, and that's definitely important to us and some of our other properties, and it'll be here too. And just making sure that we have the right balance between new buildings as well as natural environments too. Again, all of these we can go through in more detail, but I'll skip a lot of that for now. But lots of thought went into this for sure, and what some of the different uses would be. You'll see lots of different ideas up here, some key themes: diversity, urban destination, connection to nature. A lot of those came out of our focus groups and our public outreach. The urban experience we've talked a lot about already. Stormwater, we anticipate stormwater vaults would go under the park area, so it'll do double duty as both an active area as well as a place for stormwater detention. These are all some inspiring ideas that we've gotten from around the globe, and some different ideas that we hope to implement here. Multi-mobility, of course, with the continued increase in Uber and Lyft and car sharing and other modes of transportation. We want to make sure that all of that can be accessed and accommodated on site. And then implementation, this is our initial phasing plan. I mentioned phase 1A and phase 1B. These are the primary buildings that we think will get developed first, specifically this one up along Mildred. As Shirley mentioned, the main permit that we're doing now will actually outline these parcels so that it sets it up in a phased way for future development. Again, phase 2, you've got some project data down here on approximate number of units. I should say these units, these apartments for phase 1 and 2 are a little bit tricky, just if there's student housing and what that form that would take. Phase 3 and 4 are somewhat interchangeable depending on the future plans for both tenants and the buildings. These buildings are in the better shape of the ones on site, and so they have quite a few years left in them. We half jokingly say this is a 2 to 20 year plan. We want to go slow, we want to do it right, and we want to make sure that it integrates into the rest of the community in an appropriate way. So again, not committing to anything, but there's some sample data here for everybody to look at. And then parking, of course, lots of thought, lots of research has gone into parking. You'll start here for what's existing on site right now, and then work your way through as each phase gets developed. And then you wind back to the ultimate build out. We do benefit by having James Center South and some agreements with the neighboring properties for shared parking here, which we think will definitely benefit us. And then we've also had initial conversations with TCC and their parking lot, which goes largely unused in evenings and weekends. So lots of parking options in the neighborhood. I'd say we're also fortunate to not have a lot of residential directly adjacent that we would overflow and take that parking too. So that was a benefit of the site for sure. And that's the conclusion. I can scroll, I can take questions now. We're right before 8. I can go back through any of the other pages that people want to look at. We'll open it up.
Thank you so much, Josh. Yeah, no, that was a great presentation. I just want to ask Luke had a question in the chat, and he asked, does the plan still consist of TCC students who need housing able to live in the apartments?
That's a great question. We do have the voucher program with TCC right now. It's taken various forms over the last few years. We don't know exactly how that will integrate with the built buildings, but we have had extensive conversations with TCC as well as other developers that love the program and want to figure out how to expand it to these new buildings for sure. So I know that doesn't give you an exact answer, but it's definitely on the forefront of our mind on how to serve those students in need.
Great. Yeah. And now I saw Shirley showed the environmental evaluations and how that was all done. But we just heard from Shauna and about surface water and healthy watersheds. I was curious if there's any aspects of low impact development, permeable pavement, anything with adding all of this concrete that would benefit Western Slopes and Leech Creek watershed.
That's a great question too. I'd say I'll take it in 2 parts. The first part is the existing property is mostly asphalt, lots of surface level parking here on site. We think we'll actually be adding green space to the property, both in the park that's up here with quite a bit of green space through grass and other things, and then also through bioswales and other tools and techniques that we've implemented successfully in other properties. Does that answer the question? Any more detail on that?
Is there any aspects of, you mentioned green building, but there wasn't really any specifics. Is there any aspects of low impact development, or is there, I know it's very pleasing to see a development with this much green. Let me just say that first and foremost, it's so nice to see trees. It's so nice to see the connection with nature, it's really pleasing, to the eye, the aesthetic, even living. But just in terms of, seeing Tacoma and their emphasis on, equitable and, diversifying, this area's development, it would be nice to take those concepts, forth of high quality like low impact development and like, the connection with nature and actually see it put into place. And so I was just wondering if Tacoma was prioritizing that and using that as design methods or ways of, ways of sustainability with this James Center North development.
Totally. I think there's 3 key categories that we look at with a lot of our projects. One is a continually increased energy code that continues to drive how these buildings get built. Solar, including those, our latest buildings have solar involved with them. We're continuing to work with TPU on water heaters and how to make that more efficient. And then I lost the third one that I had to. More efficient design. So less waste, less construction waste, panelization, all of that. The technology continues to increase, and it's good for us too. It saves on our costs by not having to by being more efficient and effective. So yeah, less waste,
Great.
more greenery, and then increased energy code.
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to hear it. Now I can't see everyone, but I'm not sure if there's any raised hands. If there is, does anyone have any questions for Josh and or Shirley?
I did want to also plug in with Josh that the city does have a green building program and works with developers to find ways to economically and then also provide incentives to do low impact development and green building, and whether that's through stormwater and civil engineering type stuff or the actual buildings. And THA has been a great partner so far in that. And speaking on a professional level, probably completely out of school, THA has actually been one of our better sustainable builders.
Wonderful.
In many ways, partly because they are going to own the project for its whole life. So, a lot of sustainability also includes, maintenance and costs of operations and things like that. So
that's great. It's really reassuring to hear as, a resident, as a community member. So wonderful. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think we have, one more question. Okay, it was just a comment. Okay, so thank you so much again, Shirley and Josh, for being with us tonight and presenting on James Center North. It looks like a great development.
I have one quick thing that I promised to plug, and I don't know if Ted brought this up or not, so I apologize if he already said it. But if you all haven't had a chance to check out the Home in Tacoma program, it has the potential to very much change how we do housing and how we live in Tacoma. And it's really exciting. And there's some really great ideas. If you just Google Home in Tacoma, you will find the page. I wanted to point, there's an informational meeting tomorrow night. It looks like 5:30, our favorite Zoom. And then there's a public hearing with the Planning Commission on April 7th. And I've been privileged to read many of the proposed changes, and it's pretty exciting. So I did promise that I would plug that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Shirley. Wonderful. Okay, so our next presenter is Kelly with the Narrows Glen Senior Living Community. Kelly's our West End Business Spotlight this month. So Kelly, would you mind presenting to the West End?
Of course. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to make this quick because I know it's like after 8 o'clock on St. Patty's Day. So I just first of all wanted to thank all of you for even including us on this, because we have been in this area for 32 years. So Narrows Glen has been around for a long time. And I only see a few people on here like their actual faces, but do you all know where Narrows Glen is? Raise your hand. Yeah, going down to Titlow Beach. So yeah, so we have been around, like I said, for 32 years, and we are senior living community. And as you know, we've gone through a lot this past year. It's been a hard time. And what I want to do is just tell you super quick what we offer, and then kind of what we're doing right now. And it's been a very difficult year with our residents and our family members. And I don't know even if some of you may have some family members in a senior living community. It just really has been a difficult thing. So Narrows Glen, like I said, has been around for 32 years. We are a community that you can come in as independent living, and you can go on. You can have a continuum of care. You can go from independent to assisted to memory care. So that's a good thing about our community because you have all the different levels of service. And we are rather large. We are 235 apartments. So we have 126 assisted, 90 independent, and 19 memory care. Our location, as you know, with the West End is phenomenal. And it's very unique with a lot of the communities that are in our 5-mile radius, because a lot are urban and we are surrounded by woods. We're in a residential and going down to Titlow Beach. So a lot of people like that with our community. So one thing that I did want to share is, like I said, for this past year, it's been really difficult. We were not able for 6 months to bring any new residents into our community. We have had strict guidelines. Our residents have only been eating meals in their apartments, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you can imagine how hard that is. Not really having family member visits, even though we have essential visitors. So it's been very, very challenging. And our occupancy is a little bit down because of that, because we couldn't allow any new residents. But now we can. Things are coming open more for us. And one thing that I did want to say, we were really strict with our protocols here at Narrows Glen. You had to have COVID tests, you had to self-quarantine, all of that. So we never had an outbreak. And there were many other communities in our surrounding areas that did have many outbreaks, but we were lucky not to have that. And just what I want to share with you right now is that we are opening. Our dining room is open, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Residents as of next Tuesday can actually be around each other. And that's been something that's been missing for such a long time, is to have that community that they could be with each other. So we are doing that. We all have been vaccinated, every one of our residents, all of our employees, well, a majority of our employees. So we're trying to get back to a little bit of normalcy. So again, I just wanted to share that we are in this community. And if you have any questions or anything like that, I can put in the chat about my phone number or an email. But anything that you would want to learn about Narrows Glen, it's a wonderful community. I would say to anybody, if you have any family members that are looking for that next step, I know it's a very challenging next step, and especially in this time, but we are getting better with it, to reach out to us, to check us out. And it's just a wonderful community. And that's all I really wanted to share.
Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight, Kelly. It's, after the past year and, especially hitting the senior community the hardest, it's really nice to hear that you're reopening again and people can start dining together and that you guys are all vaccinated. How wonderful. So really, thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelly?
Thank you all again.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and so now we have a surprise welcome person on our agenda. We missed Luke Byram from the Tacoma Area Commission on Disabilities last month. And so we're giving Luke just a little brief chance for a presentation tonight, and then we'll move on to the agenda with Destiny's update on the Thames site. So Luke, do you want to present? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, thanks. Hi, my name's Luke Byram. I'm the Vice Chair of the Tacoma Area Commission on Disabilities, and our commission exists to make sure that our city is serving the needs of people with disabilities across Tacoma, and on occasion with partnership with Pierce County. Most recently, our commission became active advising the city on public works projects for people with disabilities, such as creating intersections and crosswalks that make moving around the city easier, especially for those who may use wheelchairs, walkers, or other assistive devices, especially those with sight disabilities, as an example. We welcome any thoughts about better access across the city, including streets and sidewalks and into buildings that everyone uses in your neighborhood, such as grocery stores. As an example, we appreciate finding the best ways to reach out to constituencies that are temporarily or permanently disabled. When we do have successes, we like to plan public events to celebrate progress, such as upgrades to an intersection that helps people with disabilities and others more safely cross. These upgrades improves the safety and quality of life for all residents. Here are a few examples of our successes. We helped pass a closed caption universal access ordinance at all public places with TVs like bars and restaurants and waiting rooms. This makes it possible for any deaf or hearing impaired person to understand what is happening on the television, including during emergency broadcasts, and of course, Seahawks football. Our commission partnered with the Office of Equity and Human Rights, which staffs our commission, and the City Council to launch a study to determine how to create and or demand taxi service accessible for people with temporary or permanent disabilities. And finally, our commission is working with the Tacoma Dome Light Rail Link Project and Pierce Transit Projects and others to make sure that these projects are designed with the needs of people with disabilities in mind. And now I have a few questions to stir a brief conversation with you, including, are there sidewalks, intersections, street and buildings in your neighborhood that are hard for people with disabilities to navigate, and where are they, and how would you like to see those locations improve? Which people and organizations could we invite to future listening sessions that might have some thoughts for public works projects that could help people with disabilities? Perhaps you might be able to recommend churches, clubs, and other groups that might serve people with disabilities. Who could we talk to, and which organizations could we reach out to in order to make sure we hear from people of color and these public works projects for people with disabilities? What is one thing you want us to communicate with our fellow commissioners and our leaders at Public Works? And if you are interested in becoming a commissioner, please reach out to our staff liaison, Lucas Meraldo, in the Office of Equity and Human Rights. I'll include his email as well as mine in the chat. Thanks again. And if you want to voice those concerns or put them in the chat, I'll be responding to those. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Luke. That was a great presentation. Does anyone have any answers or comments to the questions that Luke was asking? I don't see any in the chat. I don't see any hands. I was pleased to, with Josh's presentation, Luke, to see that there are some considerations for building within that James Center North. So I appreciate that, and also the fact that that's, you know, way to go with getting closed caption for restaurants and bars. I think that's, you know, well overdue, and it's fantastic. So way to go there. And I just want to mention that if you ever have any events or anything that you'd want to for us to put on our West End Neighborhood Council website, or any, you know, questions to pose out to the public, please don't be a stranger and reach out to us, because I think this group is very interested. I do see Jean mentioned 19th Street down to the Boathouse Park / Titlow is awful to walk down. There's no shoulder, let alone sidewalks on that. So Luke, do you see that in the chat? Maybe you can bring that to your commission and let them know that, you know, it's just terrible to walk down there, and dangerous too. And I think even with, we were just talking earlier in this meeting about racing cars and whatnot, it's you know, tough to navigate on streets without that consideration of pedestrians, and especially people with disabilities. So that area definitely for one. Anyone else have anything to mention? Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Luke. We are pleased that you're with us, even if it's a month later than expected. Thanks again. All right, and now we're going to hear from, yes, thank you. And now we're going to hear from Destiny Logan. She is our representative from the West End Council that shows up to the Thames site on 6th and Orchard. Destiny, would you mind giving us a brief update of the Thames site, please?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Destiny Logan. So as Liz was saying, I'm on the West End Neighborhood Council board. I also sit as a just a member of the Community Advisory Committee for the Thames site on 6th and Orchard. As you know, it's the micro shelter that was opened in December of last year. So I know that we're like 15 minutes over time, you know, so I'm going to make this really quick. So in the last meeting last Wednesday, it was noted that they, from January to February, they had 3 positive move outs, meaning they had 3 residents move out into permanent housing, which is fantastic. They've had a total of 12 move outs total, with 7 of those being in permanent housing. So that's about 54% of their population going in, or their move outs going into permanent housing, which is fantastic. They have 2 move outs scheduled for April. So that's pretty exciting. So hopefully, you know, some more folks in need can get in and take those spots. They have had a lot of donations, you know, from the communities, which is fantastic. They actually have run out of capacity, so they're having storage issues. They've worked with the church right next door to try to store a lot of their things. So they are in need of bins to store clothing. So if you have any extra bins laying around the house, they can certainly move that or use those, excuse me. They can also use men's clothing. And other than that, they have taken, you know, anything extra that they get, they're actually trying to find places for it. But they are pretty maxed out on donations. But that's a great thing, right? So we're pretty excited about that. Let's see here, what else, sorry. There have been, sorry, I already said that. Okay, and then really quickly to the neighborhood, you know, citizens around the area, neighbors of the facility have been speaking and discussing getting together and doing some sort of, you know, neighborhood get together, whether that's a barbecue or a welcoming committee, to try to make these folks feel a little bit at home. So that there was an email that came out earlier this week trying to get, you know, some people involved in that and figure out good ways to do that during COVID. I definitely recommend, if you want more information about the Thames site, if you want to get involved in any of, you know, the welcoming committee or, you know, donations or volunteering your time, definitely come to the meetings. They're held on the 2nd Wednesday of every month. So the next one, I believe, is April 14th, if I'm not mistaken. But if you need that information, just let me know. I'm happy to send you the meeting invites. And those are the bigger updates. But yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Destiny. We appreciate you sharing those updates and so positive about 3 folks moving out in a positive way.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool.
I love that. It's wonderful. All right, well, we've reached the end of new business and I'd like to open it up to any public comments or concerns. Do we have any folks? I know, thank you all for holding on here. I know we're 20 minutes over schedule. So now just moving on to old business. We have our Litter Free 253 big citywide cleanup event on April 17th. And so of course we're going to plug that. The West End is integral in planning. And so we have a bunch of sites set up in the West End. I believe it's James Center North is one of our cleanup sites. And we also have the Narrows Park and Ride on 6th. And let's see, what else do we have? Candle Park is one of them. And Sherry or Jean, help me out on the other 2. I think we eliminated a couple of them. So what was that?
Co-op on Pearl Street.
Oh, the co-op on Pearl Street. Wonderful.
And we have 175 people signed up already across Tacoma.
Amazing.
That's great.
Amazing. It really is. Yes. So show up early and hopefully we'll have a litter grabber for you. If not, after you pick up litter, we have a reusable tote bag. If you want to be more involved, please visit our sign up site to sign up as a group or a business or just an individual litter picker upper, or you could be a litter leader and help us manage one of these sites. So the sign up is bit.ly/litterfree253. So we'd encourage you all to come and help us clean up litter. And if you don't want to join us or any physical limitations or whatnot, we have a donation form if you want to support in that way. And we're saying that for every $20, we get another litter grabber to add to the event. So, and then we also have John Hines is our city councilman who was with us at the beginning of the meeting, and he has a newsletter. So please sign up for that. It's in our agenda, which I think is attached to this meeting in some way, shape, or form. And if not, you can always find it on the website, our West End Neighborhood Council website. And so I'd like to adjourn the meeting, and please keep in mind that our next meeting is also virtual. It's on Wednesday, April 21st, and we're using the same Zoom link for that meeting. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Our meeting is
Thanks,
adjourned.
Liz.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank you
great
all.
meeting. See you guys.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.